Mark Tovar coaches leaders, employees, and executives to increase emotional intelligence and mental agility. He trains people to build relationships, momentum, and cohesion to enhance their leadership style. He also specializes in coaching those in high-stress professions from experiencing burnout, helping them to reorient and find the drive that will move them forward.
If you don't have psychological safety in your work environment, you don't have much of a building block for anything else. Let me explain what I mean. We're going to talk today about psychological safety. First, I'm going to explain what it is. Then I'm going to have you do a little self-check to see how good you think your psychological safety meter is. And then at the end, I'm going to give you some quick tips on how to improve psychological safety in your workspace. So when we talk about psychological safety, it is the belief that people in your area or who you work for or who you work with won't be punished or humiliated for speaking up. Now, this can be for things that they like or they believe or they have great ideas, but most often when we're talking about psychological safety, it is the belief that they won't be castigated for something that they don't believe or teased by others or embarrassed or rejected for speaking out. Now, that can sometimes be outward. It can also be inward. A person doesn't really have to say much in order for someone to know that they are disagreed with, especially if you're in a work setting. It can be something like a manager just not responding or quickly brushing over the topic, right? So the question you ask yourself is, are your people, can they stand up for what they believe in? Can they say what they want to say without being punished? Are they able to employ themselves without fear of negative consequence or self-image or career status? This would be a work culture where people feel accepted and respected, even if they don't always agree with the particular work culture or the way things are. David Altman, who's the Chief Operating Officer of the Center of Creative Leadership, he says people need to feel comfortable speaking up, asking naive questions, and disagreeing with the way things are in order to create ideas that make a real difference. I want you to think that, those in leadership often have more psychological safety for those than those who work for them. Okay, so there may be a split culture here. This could be as easy as, well, you're allowed to say what you want to say, but perhaps those working for you are not. I really want people to ask themselves these three questions whenever they go into a place where they're in charge or they're leading, or even if it's a peer. This works the same way. Number one is, how do I experience others? What I mean by experience is, what are your thoughts and feelings about other people around you? Number two is, how do others experience me? When you come into the room, are you somebody who's open? Can they ask you questions? Are they able to challenge your ideas? Do you allow them to do this? And then the third is, how do others experience themselves when they are in my presence? Which means, are you an easy person to be around? As Tim DeLong says, the Baker Foundation professor of management practice, the best leaders listen deeply, communicate empathetically, and must be brave enough to make themselves vulnerable and admit mistakes. So when you think about how do others experience themselves when they are in my presence, are you emulating that it is okay to have failures, to make mistakes, and that is acceptable in your work culture? If not, I believe you are missing a huge part of allowing your teams and people to be psychologically safe. Let me give you some tips. They'll talk about, creating an environment of trust. Let's take a look here and think about how we would create this psychological safety. And Like I said, there's plenty of work on this. If you look at the Center for Creative Leadership, they have plenty of ways to create psychological safety. Acknowledge your own fallibility. Keep your mind open. Lead by example. Ask questions. Be an active listener. A lot of people say, well, I have an open door policy. I'm one of those leaders who they can come in. Okay, that's great. But an open door policy doesn't really mean much if they don't think that the person that's in that office or in that space is going to create a safe space for them to say what they feel. And if you are a leader and think to yourself, well, I ask my people how I lead all the time and if they feel safe, I want you to really, really challenge that notion, because if you're in charge of people, and that means you sign their paycheck and have a direct line to their trajectory of success, they are less likely to tell you the truth, because everybody wants to seem competent and confident. Regarding psychological safety, do you have it? If not, what we can do, as we just spoke about, to make it a better place for everybody involved. And let's see if we can't get some really good traction to make our leadership style and our outcomes a whole bunch better. I am delighted that you joined me this week and hope you will again. We'll explore more positive leadership and emotional intelligence topics that will continue to create the new leaders we need. If you like today's podcast, do me a favor and share it with the people that you think can benefit. You can find my information in the show description, along with a link to leave me a message or comment, or even my LinkedIn page. I'm Mark Tovar, and until next week, stay EQ ready.